Okay. I'll call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Today we will be presented with our Parks and Recreations Department, or continuation of, libraries, neighborhood services, asset management, and aviation departments.
Okay, and I'm going to call the roll
I'm so
really
sorry.
quickly right before we start then.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, thank you.
No problem. Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter. Mr. Hunter. I know he's online. Yeah, unmute your mic, Michael. Okay.
Hello, hello.
There he is. All right. Billy Lederman.
Here.
John Martinez. Okay, Mr. Martinez is not here. Ben Molina.
Present.
Mike Pesley. Greg Smith.
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley.
Here.
Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, so Dr. Dante Gonzalez is going to finish up Parks and Recreation, and then the other lineup that you mentioned, Mayor. And then just as a reminder, Thursday is our final budget work session, and that will begin at 9 as well. That will be the visitor industry, our hotel occupancy tax, the convention center, arena. Brett will be here from CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau. And then also that day, we're going to do Development Services one more time to talk about their fee adjustments. Since Friday, they have been meeting with the development community. They'll be meeting again this week. They'll be able to provide them feedback from the comments they're getting, and then we'll bring those fee adjustments back to you. They are making some adjustments based on the feedback from the development community, they being the department. So Thursday, they'll bring a final schedule to you.
Great.
Okay, thank you. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Dante Gonzalez.
Good
Morning.
This is, there you go. Good morning, Mayor and Council. So today we're going to resume Parks and Recreation proposed budget. So let me just go to that slide. All right, so just a little clarification from last time that we were here. I think we left with the idea that the families were paying $50 for swim lessons. It's actually $50 per person in a group, and the class is one class, 4 sessions, twice a week. So they actually, and it's for a total of 8 classes. So for $50 is they get 8 classes, and it's a period per child, correct? And that's a group session. In a private setting, it's $100 per child, and it's exactly the same. So it's 4 lessons that go through 4 weeks, twice a week.
Twice a week. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So continue with our enhancements for FY22. We also have an additional 230 shade trees that are going to be planted throughout the city parks for a total of $225,000. These are 95-gallon trees, which are planted by a contractor, and the larger trees have a better survival rate, and it also prevents theft. We had a couple of instances where some of the smaller saplings, some of the smaller trees that were being planted, they were being uprooted and taken overnight. So that created a problem. These larger trees prevent that in the sense that it's very harder. It's a lot harder to take them out of the ground and take them with them.
And Dr. Gonzalez, this is where are you referring to?
We're in slide 25.
No, I'm sorry, but where were the trees?
Everywhere.
Oh, just
Yeah,
anywhere.
everywhere.
Oh,
Where the
wow.
smaller trees are being planted, it was very easy for somebody to come through with the truck, just pull them out, put them in the back of the truck, and then take them home. These trees, even the smaller ones, are not necessarily. When you plant them, the ground's still soft, so you can pull them out and put them back in the truck and take them with you. So this really helped
So smart.
reduce that theft. We actually, to my knowledge, we haven't had a single 95-gallon tree being stolen.
Good.
Yeah, so that's
Horrible.
yeah. Not only
So
trees,
sad.
but also the smaller shrubs, plants with flowers. Also,
So
the
sad.
community tends to do that.
I'm not missing any Labonte Park, am I?
Levante's looking great, and all those trees that we planted about a year ago, Kevin, right, they're all surviving, right? So they have a higher survival rate the bigger the
The
tree.
95?
Yes.
Dr.
Okay.
Dante,
Yeah.
what, are they mixture trees or the same type of trees that we're planting everywhere?
No, they are different types of trees.
Okay.
Yes, so they're kind of like a variety, which helps with the ecosystem as well. The majority of, I don't think we're planting any mesquite trees. We're planting oak trees. Kevin, what kind of trees do we have? Do you have that list?
No, not with me.
Maybe you can just send that to us.
I can send that list to you, but it is a really nice variety. I know that there's a lot of oak trees, and those get really nice and big, and they provide really nice shade.
Great.
Right.
All right. Any Anakawa trees?
Anyway. What? We can't.
It's okay. No, Anakawa, it's a native tree to South Texas.
I'm not sure, but I can tell you that they do survive this cold, harsh winters. I know personally, I have oak trees in my house in Victoria, Texas.
They
and
survive, yeah.
Right, and they have survived very nice. Yeah,
great.
They didn't even get bothered by the cold.
This council loves trees.
That's
What
good.
can we say?
We all do. We also have included $1 million. We also have included $1 million for lighting at the mirror doors and the seawall. And the seawall is, this is one of our most precious resources, and improving the lighting there will further
Dr.
enhance
Gonzalez,
this.
let's go to that now. That's improving, changing out, or I mean, are they already all lit up or not?
They're currently lit up, but if you walk down the seawall, you'll notice that that the lighting is very dim.
Okay.
We want to make sure that increases.
Okay.
Not only will provide safety for our residents, but also provide a better visibility and enhancement to that area.
Okay, so we're improving
Correct.
the lighting. Is that the fixtures are staying, or is that going to be replaced? Those fixtures, like the ones you see there, the little bulb?
There's a variety of them. Some of them kind of have, throughout the time, they've kind of gotten yellowish, right? So that also dims the lighting. We want to make sure that all the light there is consistent and that is the same, so that it looks very consistent throughout the seawall.
Great. Okay, thank you. Councilman Lerma has a question.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Yeah, Doctor, on these lighting fixtures, do they change colors? Did we install anything that changes colors to where, we can change it throughout the season?
I don't think that they change colors, not currently. But one of the things that we have to consider is the brighter white, or it's to enhance the visibility. So if you put like a red color or a blue color, it might reduce the visibility, which is what we're trying to, so that pedestrians can see and have a little bit more safety. But at this time, they're not changing colors. And right. But
Thank
that's
you.
one of the reasons why we probably would justify not putting color lights. Just
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Furthermore, with enhancing our parks, and we have and with the master part at Levante Park, we have included $55,000 there for master plan at Levante Park. We also have, I think we're all excited, and we are very anxious to see the completion of Cole Park Pier. But we have put another enhancement there to provide $150,000 for Cole Park Pier maintenance. The maintenance will include things such as increased daily sanitation, trash pickup, power washing, graffiti removal, repairs due to vandalism, and then also ongoing maintenance, which is going to be necessary so that we maintain this structure that we're putting there, and it can last a lifetime. And then for our military community, we have $100,000 set up there, which have been scheduled to use for the memorial monument design in Cheryl Veterans Memorial Park, which will be a tribute to all 5 branches of the military. Currently, if you drive there by Cheryl, there is currently a shade structure that is being built. We're very excited for that structure. I think it's going to create a lot of aesthetics and increase the beauty of that park. And currently, right now, we're scheduled to finish that beginning of October. We have fallen victims of the reduction in the amount of supplies that are there, the raw supplies. So it's just taking a little bit longer to get the wood, but it is still scheduled to be completed in October.
Okay. Councilman Pusley has a comment?
Dante, something that I'm about to start working on, and I'd like to get you guys involved in. We used to have a helicopter on the bayfront as a memorial to the Vietnam veterans, and it blew away in one of the hurricanes, or blew off the pedestal. I think the pedestal is still there.
Actually,
No, it's not.
it's
Yeah.
gone, and that was taken out. So looking into that, I don't know, probably 3 years ago with CCAD, it was about, well, it's a long story, but it's about bringing that, what was it? Not a Black Hawk, but I don't remember the
The
name.
Huey helicopter.
Yes, it was very difficult to find one. CCAD wouldn't pay for or couldn't pay for it to be brought here, and there was an issue of the maintenance. It was a big, I have a file on it if you'd like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to look at it anyway. I'll get the information from the mayor and we'll see what we can do. But
Definitely, we can visit
I
that.
think that would be, if we're doing memorials at Sherrill Park, maybe that might be something we could add to that. And Councilman Lerma can work with me on it if he'd like to, and we'll see what we can put together. But I think that'd be really nice.
Okay.
It's something I've received a lot of comments about. Thank you.
We also have $50,000 for the Art Center Phase and Design Revitalization. The mission of the Art Center is to nurture and promote regional artists as well as a service to our diverse community here in Corpus Christi. And also $230,000 for the replacement of 4 vehicles and 4 ride-in mowers. The new vehicles will ensure that our Parks and Recreation fleet maintains its useful life, and we also be able to mow grass, which we all know it's important. Furthermore, our further enhancements we have in our special revenue, we have $1.46 million in our shot fund for beach operations. This is for the addition of 3 F-150s, 3 front load, the replacement of 3 front loaders, 1 jet ski, and 4 Kubota truckster. $112,000 in the shot fund for park operations for 5 Kubota trucksters, and then $22,000 in the visitor facility fund for 1 Kubota truckster, and that's to increase the sanitation throughout our shoreline. In the marina, we also have some enhancements as well. We have the TNL Head Master Plan. This plan will look to future projects needed in the marina, and it will also include the best layout for future use, and that's for $50,000. We have $560,000 for the marina breakwater assessment. This assessment will better decide that what work needs to be performed to raise and reshape the breakwater and how much the project will cost. And then $123,000 for the addition of additional 2 positions within the marina. This marina has been operating with 15 full staff members. We've increased over the past 5 to 8 years. We've increased our services. We're providing better services. So the addition of this will also be in line with that increase in servicing.
Okay.
We're also asking for $75,000 for the replacement of the fence around the dry storage. This project will replace the badly worn and corroded fencing around the dry storage on Cooper's Alley. The dry storage area frequently has a waiting list and generates revenue for the marina. $55,000 for the haul-out facility door replacement. This project will replace the very worn-out and damaged haul-out facility door that is used to protect the marina tools and equipment. And $82,000 for the replacement and addition of wayfinding signs, and these signs will add, update, and replace the signs that we currently have around the marina to better direct people to the attractions they're looking for.
Thank you for adding the signs, Jonathan. I know that's extremely needed. I think we have a comment. Councilman Lerma?
Yes, ma'am. Dante, do we see, or Peter, either one of you, Peter and I, we talked about this, the fueling station, the fueling dock. Can you give us a report on that, what we plan on doing with that, sir?
Right, yeah, let's have Jonathan Atwood, our marina manager. He'll tell us the latest.
Good morning, Council. Yes, sir. I've been talking to several different people as well as some of the fueling companies in the area. One of the issues we face currently is that the previous fuel station did not make enough money to really pay for itself each year, and that was through a third-party organization that basically supplied all the equipment, and we just helped fuel. I have not been able to source another company like that, and we are looking at bringing that in-house, but currently I'm having discussions with 2 local businesses to possibly take that over. As soon as I can finalize either a plan with them or decide we're not going to go in that direction, then I'll have more information on that.
Thank you for the update.
In the meantime, Jonathan, we do have fuel still on the weekend, is that right?
Yes, sir. Oil Patch still brings in trucks every Saturday, and we work with the tenants to provide fuel every Saturday morning.
That's okay. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right. So as part of our 3-year proposed Marina Capital Improvement Plan, we also have some items here. We have scheduled an overdue and significant investment in the marina. These improvements will allow for better use of the marina and also provide much better services. As part of the improvements, $6.7 million have been planned for boat haul-out, office, retail facility to attract more foot traffic to the marina. The project will provide more adequate facilities given the current and future volume of marina tenants. A new Cooper's boaters facility is also scheduled over the next 2 years, totaling $4.2 million. The new facility will have additional restrooms, showers, increased number of washer and dryers, and the uniformity throughout the security system. $3.1 million for the rehabilitation of People's Boardwalk. The boardwalk has exceeded its useful life, and it requires replacements to meet safety standards. The boardwalk will include new wood, upgraded electrical and water utilities will restore the stability and the safety to this area. And we also have $19 million to replace the 5 piers, which include A, B, C, D, and L piers, as well as to dredge the marina, which will help to vastly improve and increase our services there at the marina.
Great.
So, Dr. Dante, $33 million investment in total, right? Yeah,
Correct.
The boat haul-out facility was, you saw a picture of it earlier, the previous slide. It's rusty. You can see it from the seawall walk as well as Cooper's Alley.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't look good at all. That's our property. And then the boaters facilities on Cooper's, I think, is there one in every T-head? So this one is one of the older ones. It's really outdated. So a nice brand new boaters facility for the persons at dock. They can use that. The boardwalk, the People's Boardwalk, is not there. The pylons are there, but with Hannah last year, the majority of the planks were blown off, and we removed the rest. So the footings are still good, and the pylons. So this will just put new decking on, and that takes you to the restaurants like Harrison's Landing and so on. And then we know about the replacement of A, B, C, D, and L, and Jonathan's doing a great job keeping that on track. It's 40% under design, and the goal is to get it in as soon as we can. It's 33% of all the slips and piers is in that $20 million.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the last project, finally, there's $218,000 to upgrade the Marina Wi-Fi, replacing the existing Wi-Fi, and with a more modern system will provide best signal for Wi-Fi. This system is 20 years old. So it's very limited. The new Wi-Fi system will conform with modern marinas, and it's the norm for tenants across all the marinas. So the project overall over the next 3 years is $33 million, and it aims at modernizing our marina to current standards and also increase our revenue and enhance use.
Right.
And with that, I end my
Councilman,
presentation.
You have a comment? Yes, sir.
Okay, Dante, just a couple of things I want to run through. In this 3-year proposed plan, Peter, I would hope that we figure out a way, and our new marina director may be able to help, and our CVB board may be able to help, to encourage a couple of more restaurants for our marina downtown. I just have always been amazed that we don't have more restaurants there, and I had asked Neiman Young earlier this year, and he provided me the information. I know that the restaurants there at the marina pay an upcharge for the privilege of being at the marina. There's a decision that council made years ago, maybe something we need to revisit to encourage more development of, because they have to pay a percentage of their gross income to the city for the privilege of being located on the marina. And I'm not sure that's fair anymore. But anyway, that really ought to be an area where you see more people going at nighttime and on weekends for that kind of, I just think there's a lot of potential there for bringing people downtown to enjoy that atmosphere. I want to go back, Dante, I sent you some questions about dog parks. And since I don't own a dog, I don't ever visit dog parks. So
We can change that.
Yeah, no. When
I have Joe. I'll have Joe
The
reach
sweet
out.
side of you will come right out.
when my youngest child left home, I made her take what was left of the animals that were in my house, and my wife and I no longer have to worry about an animal when we go on vacation. So, anyway. I want to look at this very closely. I just can't imagine what we would put into a dog park that's going to cost $500,000 or $400,000, or, you know, and these 2 dog parks you have proposed in this plan is just a little south of $1 million. And the million, I equate everything now to street cost. And it costs us $1 million to build 1 mile of neighborhood streets. So with that $1 million for dog parks, we could build another mile of somebody's neighborhood street here in Corpus Christi. And so I want to look at this carefully. I'm not against the dog parks. I said this last week, but I want to know more about the amenities that we put into something like that that raises the cost to that level. I talked to Councilman Smith, and he built one in one of his private facilities, and I think he said he spent less than $20,000, and he said it's a really nice dog park. So, you know, I just, and I asked Dante to send me a list of the cost and the cost comparisons for other dog parks that the city has built. And if you would provide that information to the other council members and myself, at some point, maybe Peter at our last budget hearing, whenever that is, I'd like to discuss that more at length.
Absolutely, we can provide that.
Okay.
And we can go ahead and send that, prepare and then send it to council to
Yeah,
review.
and Dr. Gonzalez, include pictures
Yes.
Okay.
of the parks in San Antonio and parks in whatever cities you choose, because we also, you need to attribute and consider, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you get what you pay for. So we can spend, you know, whatever, and I don't know anything about dog parks either. But I don't know anything about building a house either. So when you build a house, it depends on what you use, right? Your foundations and your walls and everything you customize. And Councilman Pusley's a very good point. Basically, to what level do we want to customize? I think that's what this comes down to possibly. Again, I don't know how you build a dog park from the ground up, but I imagine you don't just throw a gate around a patch of grass and call it a dog park. That's not what we're interested in doing, or not, I'm not certainly. It needs to be something that is beautiful and that we're proud of. But to your point, Councilman Pusley, you know, to what degree? So include, I just always, visuals are very good because then you see what your investment looks like.
I'll have that, you know, and to note on that, you know, some of these structures, some of these amenities that the dog parks will have, they have to be of much better quality since dogs tend to
Sure.
play with them a little bit more rough.
Okay.
And there's a higher throughput of people going through that. But yes, absolutely, we'll make that, we'll put that together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know, because it's like Councilman
agree.
Smith and I were discussing, he said, you know, dogs really don't care if you know, you take him out in the field somewhere and turn him loose, he's happy, you know, just so
you're
he's
right.
got a place to run around. He doesn't need a massage table or a masseuse, you know, but,
It's the dog owner.
we just need to
That's
be
right.
really careful in today's climate of people being concerned about how we spend their money. We need to make sure we're spending it wisely and doing things that make sense.
And we'll have that, we'll send it out.
Great.
And
Yeah,
then,
can I just add, Councilman, we'll have that detail, but the model we use is the one that's at Bill Witt. That included restroom facilities,
for the dogs or for people?
for people, well, both. Both, but
Yeah.
for the most expensive was the people one, but then it also includes
See, then that
benches.
needs to be broke out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna show it to you.
Right.
I'm
It's
just saying that's the model we're
Right.
using, so it's not like the mayor said, a chain link fence around a patch of grass. There's
Yeah.
a lot of amenities for the adult or the person as well as the dog, so we'll show you that breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, you know, if we're gonna do something like that, Peter, and I understand that, then we need to make those amenities available to people who are not necessarily bringing a dog to the park.
They are.
You know.
Yeah, you can go in without a
You know,
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go into a hurricane fenced area to use the restroom when people got 27 dogs in there, I don't know.
I wouldn't
So,
either.
I'm
Yeah.
just not gonna do that, but, you know, a good friend of mine has a great saying, he said, you know, just 'cause I like my dog doesn't necessarily mean you do. So, but anyway, and finally, I wanna mention again, Dr. Gonzalez, on the Meadors, please give the Durrell Foundation a phone call.
Right.
And tell them of what our plans are to do with respect to that. Because at the end of the day, those middoors are a memorial to two young ladies who were killed in a traffic accident here by a drunk driver. And that was the reason for their construction, and we need to be very cognizant of that fact.
Will do.
Okay, thank you, that's all I had.
Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you. Just as a side note, I think the bathrooms at Bill Witt were done separately from the dog park. They were on a bond project. I remember it was one of the things that I picked up, so I don't think it's the same thing. So I don't think that was included with the dog park. Because there's 2 bathrooms at Bill Witt.
Well, that's right. We'll confirm everything for
Yeah.
Thursday.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, so the questions I have specifically have to do around the budget. In your salaries and wages for the Office of Director, it was increased budget-wise by $100,000. Can you justify that expense?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a new position in there, which is the landscape architect, which is $100,000.
Perfect, thank you. In your budget for professional services, no, I'm sorry, let me get to this one first. You have budgeted of $3.2 million income from the Kids Power Hour, used to be the Latchkey program. Do you think it's going to recover back to the previous dates prior to the pandemic?
Absolutely. I think it is going to recover. I think we're already started seeing, not to the extent, but based
Well, you-
off
you
of
have
previous
it-
year when it was completely closed.
You
Now
have it
we're-
budgeted to the exact amount from the previous year, from the previous year, but your actual estimate is 1.6 million. So do you think you're going to get back up within $1,000 of the original budget?
Let me just pull that up. One thing we can say is that, as we're opening up centers, we are getting people on a wait list, not because we don't have the services, because we don't have the personnel that we used to have in the past. We have the positions, we just need to fill the positions. The more positions that we fill, the more programs that we can have throughout the city. So currently, at this point, we are seeing an increase in the amount of people that are registering for the after-hour Kid Power. So we do expect to see a rebound in that particular revenue. Now, to answer your question, whether we're going to get to the exact same level as we were prior to COVID, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're definitely seeing an increase right now to the point where we can see more revenue coming into that. Now, $3.2 million, I think in the past it used to be a little bit higher than that back in 2018, 2017.
Well, in 2019, you had $1.9 million budgeted, and then in 2021, you had 3.2 budgeted, original budget, and you're pretty close to it with the 3.203666. So you're within $1,000 of what you originally budgeted a year ago. But the reality is it's wasn't, with the pandemic, you just didn't get that funding. I mean, you just didn't get that participation, right?
Well, they were closed.
Right.
So
Okay.
we didn't get because
But-
of the pandemic.
Are you getting the same amount of kids that are in schools right now? I mean, it's not just that, but I mean, you have a large
Right.
portion of that is that.
Yeah.
So-
Go ahead. I was just going to say, Councilman, so this is the best case scenario, I think. If the revenues don't come in, we're not going to spend most likely the expenditures that are assigned to it, so it kind of washes itself out.
Okay.
So if the children aren't enrolled and not paying, then we don't have the staff to watch them. So it nets out to zero.
Well, I mean, you still have staff there.
No, we don't. So if the kids aren't there, we're not going to hire. A lot of these staff are temporary.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant
Part-time.
was that you're going to have kids. I just don't think you're going to have the amount of kids that you had in previous years.
Right.
So you'll still have to have a staff person there to watch fewer kids.
Well, you need more staff if you have a full class, so to speak. So if the class sizes are smaller, then we'll have fewer staff.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just
So we
want
are-
the budgets to
there's
be
a-
realistic.
So we are state certified, which means we have to have a certain amount of people for the amount of kids. So if we don't have enough of kids, we can't make a class.
Lisa, I think Lisa was going to comment.
Right, and just to echo the city manager's comment regarding the ratio, so there is a capacity limit. So for example, at one, the ratio is 1 to 23, because we are licensed. So again, if there's not enough children registered for a particular site, then we adjust staffing accordingly. So for each site, there's one senior group leader and one group leader. And then we add additional staff based on the number of children that are in that particular campus. And just to give you an idea for this year, when we compare to pre-COVID numbers, in August of 2019-2020, we had 1,964 participants, and in 30 schools. And this year, we have 924 participants in 18 schools. So the numbers are rebounding slowly, but as Dante has also commented, it's also relative to staff. So we're still in the process of hiring so that we can take the kids that are on the waiting list off the waiting list.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Okay, under your tourist district, under professional services, you added $100,000 to that budget. From the previous year was $300. Can you explain what that $100,000 is for?
Can you go over that question again?
Okay, you have in your tourist district budget under Parks and Recreation, under professional services, you have proposed budget of $100,300. The last year's adopted budget was $300. This is in the line item budget.
I know, but what page is it?
No, please.
It's not available
He's
to
in
the,
the detail.
Councilman has requested this information separately. So this is a detailed spreadsheet from Excel, yeah.
Those are for increased maintenance.
Wait a minute. Professional service. You have a maintenance budget that's
My
separate.
apologies.
This is for professional services. Want to know what that $100,000 is for in your tourist district. I mean, generally, I look for deviations in budget line items, whether you're within a, couple of percentage points of the previous year, plus or minus, it's fine. But when you have a significant increase, there's got to be something specific.
I'm going to have maybe Nicole. Do you want to come up and talk about this particular item? So Nicole is the finance, HR, and finance superintendent for Parks and Rec.
Well, depends on what fund, maybe.
Okay. So for the tourist district, I know that we're doing more of, like we buy more for like chlorine to treat the water that's there, is it, I don't know what you call it.
Okay, but that would not be under professional services. That would, that would be under your building maintenance or maintenance and repair.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, Councilman. Is that, does it say what fund that is? I don't have it.
Professional services.
No,
It's,
fund, what
it's
fund source?
General fund. Mhm.
It's in the general fund, Parks and Recreation,
'cause it
Tourist
could be-
District.
yeah, I don't have
under
that budget in front of
under
me.
professional services.
It could be, we have a $100,000 program for seawall event programming. Maybe that, but without having the detail.
Okay, can you look into that and get back to us, get back to me on
Yeah,
that?
I'll have to get back on you on that. I'm looking for that.
It wasn't a specific amount, it was a general amount of $100,000 even. And so that doesn't, generally if you have something specific, you have a certain dollar amount that's associated with it. But just to have a straight $100,000, it threw up a flag for me. So please find out what that is. Okay. In your CIP budget, you have programmed $5.6 million in certificates of obligation. How much of that has already been approved and how much of it hasn't been?
I'm just going through we have a lot of CIPs.
Okay, the reason I bring this up is because there's a concern about using certificates of obligation to borrow money for things that we can go through a general obligation bond on. So, for example, like, you have Gabe Lozano, which was approved in that $18 million we approved not too long ago.
Okay.
Okay, so for like example, you have a Packery Channel restoration that you have certificates of obligation of $4.9 million on. Is that coming from?
I actually don't have that answer, Councilman. Maybe Nicole or is this right here name?
So, sir, please forgive us. Dante just entered into the budget late into his development. The bottom line regarding this certificates of obligation, we just confirmed with budget that none of them have been approved yet. We're waiting for.
Okay, but
this to be-
I get it, but you're asking us to approve a plan that tacitly approves the use of certificates of obligation. I want to make sure that we are fully clear about this. I know not only myself, but Councilman Pusley has made it known that we have concerns about overusing certificates of obligation. Now, this was the same question we had for solid waste. Seems like all their improvements are done by certificates of obligation, which, by the way, I'm still waiting on the answer on CFE Venezuela. So I want to make sure that we're very clear about it. I'm not a fan of using certificates of obligation because for me it's kind of an end around the voter. So I ask that you consider that in terms of this and these budgets going forward.
Roger that, sir. We're tracking.
Councilman, so Eddie, if you can just confirm this. So there was a series of questions to include that one you just referenced, and most of them were answered via memo that was sent Friday. Did you send it Friday, Eddie? We reviewed it Friday, so it was emailed to the council? Okay, so there was a multiple page, I think 4 or 5 page document that was emailed. I don't know if, did you send it, Eddie? Who emailed it? Martha? Okay, Martha, my assistant, emailed it to the council on Friday. Let me know if you didn't get it. Yeah.
We got a few things from you. Let me go back and look at it.
So that did have, that was one of the answers. I reviewed it personally several times, including Friday.
I think with the GO bond, we paid $800,000 for a land option back in about '95 for CEFI, and the rest of it was COs.
COs, yeah.
But there was $800,000 for a land option that was paid with GO bonds.
Okay.
Councilman, did you have another question?
No, that'll be it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Smith?
Thank you. I'd like to kind of agree with Councilman Pusley when he talked about the marina and other things we're doing. So we've got an absolutely huge marina budget, 30-something million with it. And as I looked at it, it seemed very kind of marina-based. And from a return on investment with it, we really don't get it. But as a community, what is our kind of window on there is the marina. And traditionally, we've looked at the marina more as a marina. And to Councilman Pusley's point, we need to bring the marina into downtown. So I'm looking at these numbers on there, and something like the boardwalk, that as we move forward, we've got $3 million in for that boardwalk. The $4 million in for the boating facility. I'm going on there, but making these facilities in our design that reflects the asset that we have in that marina and bring it into not only just the boaters, but to Councilman Pusley's point about the restaurants. We see the people walking the seawall. How can we make we saw with North Beach that the promotional video on it, how it had a multi-use portion on there. Well, we've got the marina. It's sitting there, a fair amount of land mass with it. Yeah, we've got the boats. You know, they really don't pay for themselves if you take the hard numbers. But how, if we're going to do this kind of investment on there, we're not making the marina for the boaters. We're making the marina for this city, for all the people in the city, and design it accordingly on there. It's not a boater's marina. It's a marina for Corpus Christi, for a multi-use with it. So as we go forward, I know this is initial. We're just taking the dollars out there with it, but you know, they're substantial dollars. I'm seeing 10 million outside the dredging and the docks with it that we accommodate that.
If I may, Councilman Smith, so this is a huge initiative for all of us. I have particular focus on it, and to address a couple of things, Jonathan and I have spoken in depth about just that. It is not going to be just a marina for boats. This is about, and there's programming being talked about on this Visit Corpus Christi side, so that we are actually pulling people in on our not just the boardwalk, but the the programming on the seawall, sorry. Thank you. The seawall. But back to the marina, and that is going to be, right, something that we should have things going on and people being pulled over to that area because it's fun things going on in such a large area. But back to the marina, I want to address Councilman Pusley's comment as well as yours. We're looking at this, and like I said, I'm having lots of conversations with Jonathan because the reimagination of these T-heads are going to be what it used to be, which is a place where families can come, a place where you bring your kids, and it's not about you have to pay for this and pay for that. It's about coming and making it just beautiful to come sit and enjoy and watch the water, watch the sun go down, watch, have some programming. I remember when I was little, I mean, seeing all that. So that's being discussed. But now, to your point, Councilman Pusley, I am reaching out. I won't say to who right now because then I could ruin the surprise. But there's absolutely effort being made, and I'm crossing my fingers that these investors will come back and say, okay, wait a minute, you guys are doing, and so far, that is the reaction I've gotten is, oh, wait a minute, you're putting in how much into your marina? We're interested. And I'm praying that we have to sell to them the commitment of the investment. And the investment has everything to do with restaurants. It has to do with bringing people down there, and it has to do with completely revitalizing our T-heads. And that's exactly what, Jonathan, your vision is as well. So unfortunately, things move so slowly when you're trying to, you're trying to engage because there's nothing to engage with right now. Right now, we're saying, hey, look, we've got a council who is ready to put forth effort and revitalize. We have new leadership there, and so that's what, and it's working. I mean, it's definitely working. But I couldn't agree with you all more. And this is a council initiative. It is not one person. I have conversations with Jonathan, but it's a council initiative. There isn't anything to show right now. There isn't anything to say we're doing outside of this investment right here, which is, it's going to begin everything. So, yeah, I hope that sums that up.
If I can add to that, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, Councilman Lerma, we've got a few, I think, Peter, you had, your light was on.
Right, I just wanted to add to that, so the $55,000 in the budget for the reimagining, the master planning of the T-heads and L-head, that's going to help with those restaurants that Councilman Pusley's talking about. So we have to know, where can a restaurant go?
Right.
What type of restaurant? Is there parking?
Right.
That's one thing. Second thing is, several of the leases for the restaurants going to that add-up lease rate that they have are on a month-to-month. And so we purposely haven't brought them to council because we want to see what is the prevailing and what's the best lease rate. We're going to have that consultant help us do that. So that'll help. And then a final thing is that there's a significant investment in what has been neglected for decades. We have a professional maritime, I should say, expert that's overseeing the marina, We didn't have that in the past 10 years. So somebody like Jonathan that went to college for maritime studies knows, he's been around the world sailing across the world. He knows the customer base. He knows how to make that place a destination. So all those things coming together, we're going to see tremendous change in the marina, and we're already seeing it. There's barges right now doing dredging and repairs. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Molina.
Thank you, Mayor. Several years ago, the Navy had a decommissioning of the USS City of Corpus Christi, and they were donating the sail to our city. And that's something that Councilmember Hunter and I have been working on off and on for the past several years. And there's a local group that is trying to raise money to have the sail delivered here once it's ready, which I think is still a couple of years off. But in the meantime, since we're talking about these improvements, and since we're talking about having the discussion about creating these monuments at Sherrill Park, I'd really like for us to keep in mind that we have the sale coming.
Yeah.
And one of the areas that I think would be a good spot for it is at the on Peoples Street T-head, that circular area of concrete. There's I think there's an old anchor in the middle right now.
Yeah.
But that might be a good place for it.
There's so Councilman, both myself and Neiman have met with with the organizer of that local nonprofit. There's actually a master plan of sorts in the Sherrill Park of exactly where that piece of the sail will go. And so the space designed in the Sherrill Park area is and preserved for its arrival.
Yeah, I know that much, but one of my concerns was just kind of overcrowding in that area.
Okay.
That's a small
Well, we can bring
area,
it back to council. Like you said, it's going to be several years, but
Yeah.
it's on our radar. I personally met with the organizer. I forget his name, but it was several months ago. And Neiman met with him as well.
Colonel
Right,
Shower. Yeah, we've had a
Yeah.
couple of discussions
So
with
we
them
can
as
look
well.
at that.
Good
Yeah.
point, Councilman.
Yeah, we've had a couple of updating meetings as well.
Yeah.
Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ben, for bringing that up. I was going to bring it up as well. It's Howard Shower. He's on our Parks board.
Right.
Just a couple of things. I was noticing here, on your presentation, you'd indicated, and I'd asked specifically last week when you'd indicated $450,000 for Salinas Park. But yet, on the CIP, it says $1 million from obviously the CDBG funds, but that was from the prior year, or at least I was appropriated last year. So I'm just, and then when I asked, I said, so does that include the $1 million? Are we at 1,450,000? So I'm just wondering where would it be reflected in?
The $450,000 it's part of the regional and community development plan. And
Okay.
that is separate funds. That's from a fund balance appropriation.
Okay, great. And then also, I was noticing here, I had cause to drive by the North Beach over the weekend, and I see on here that we have the $2.5 million. The parking lots are obviously, they're not good. I don't want to say a derogatory term, but they're in much need of repair. And, I sent Richard, I don't know why I call him Ricardo. I sent Richard some pictures of where a lot of there was a lot of standing water. And I know the high tide came in that morning, and, we had the issue with the hurricane. But, in the component of where we've evaluated, I guess I just want to see at some point or another the $1,970,000 that we're going to utilize. I just want to make sure that goes far enough, because as Councilman Pusley made a statement a while ago that $1 million fix about a mile of streets. So I just want to make sure that we do it right. We talk about all this wayfinding, and there's that welcome, and I don't remember what street it is, that moves us into North Beach where there's a parking area. And it took us into a street that had ridiculous amount of potholes. And, you know, it was just every man for himself. There was a ton of activity on North Beach this weekend. I mean, there was a ton of activity out there. And there was, there was no accessibility for the disabled because, and the reason being, I mean, if I didn't drive a truck, driving a truck, it was difficult to get out there. So I just want to, I think we should put on a radar screen so that way, because I'm not seeing any funding for 2023 or 2024. So it's important that we have access out there to the beach. And there were some people that actually found a way to drive and park on the beach, which is not legal, but they were still doing it because the demand is out there. So I would look that we put that sometime on our long-term CIP.
Okay. Yeah, we actually did find the way that they were getting to the beach. There was a piling that was removed that was just old. We replaced it immediately so that we shouldn't see people parking on the beach unless they find another way.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing of the activities out there. I mean, there was a ton of activity. The tide was high. I was shocked. It was just ridiculously choppy. I was worried that something was going to happen to somebody.
Those are the after effects of the occurring tropical storm.
Yeah. And then, once again, Colonel Shower, retired Colonel Shower, lives in my district. So he tugs at me on a regular basis now. So just to keep us informed, I know that's something that it's been going on way before I got on the council. And, our Parks Foundation, I'm looking here on basically our budget for our revenue, and I'm seeing contributions and donations. Now, is that basically funds that are coming in from the Parks Foundation? What am I turning into, a gill?
I think, while you're looking, Dr. Dante, I think all the revenue that was left in the Parks Foundation was turned over to the city, and it was used for the Games of Texas. So I don't believe they're bringing in any additional revenue. Does that sound right? Yeah. The staff's confirming that. So the Parks Foundation has not raised any revenue, I don't think, in recent years, right? At least the two I've been here. There was a fund balance that has since been sent to the city, and in agreement with the Parks Chair and Board at the time, that they wanted us to use that for the Games of Texas, and that's what we did.
And I would agree with that, but I thought the purpose of the Parks Foundation, so that way, when there's a private sector, it's a vehicle with which we can accept donations from the private sector to be able to have events such as these.
It is. And so that's part of the challenge that we have with any of the boards and commissions, is that we need to help them in that one goal that some of them have, which is fundraising or accepting contributions.
So I guess we're not going to accept any contributions next.
No, we
I guess
will.
That's my question for next year.
We will. If they have them, we'll take them.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not reflected in the budget. That's
Well,
all.
because they don't have any, they didn't, there's none anticipated based on the last 2 years of donation receipts.
Okay, so the Games of Texas, once again, they're not going to be here next year, right?
Yeah, they will be here next year.
Okay, so then once again, that those private sector funds that may come in, I'm sure we're going to accept it. We're not going to turn the money away.
Right.
It's just we're anticipating that, once again, who's going to cover that cost if we have any? So we're just going to go ahead and budget it flat and assume that we're not going to have any contributions.
That's what we've done, Councilman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zanotti or Dr. Gonzalez, just, and we could, I guess, expand on this via memo if that's easier, but I would like to know, I am unclear who sits on the Parks Foundation, what is their authority, what is their function? I mean, how does, if you guys can give us a little 101 on this. I recall asking about this probably 2 years ago. I don't know, but.
It's the Parks Foundation is actually, the name is PALS, Parks, Arts, Leisure, and Seniors, PALS.
Okay.
And that's the 501c3. And the chairperson that we have on record is John Longoria. And the other two, there's other individuals, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on their
That's,
on their
and
names,
that's
yeah.
why I said, I don't know, you know, if you know that offhand, I don't know if it's, my understanding it's not, if I remember correctly, not a very active, or maybe they're not, they don't have to be active. I'm just not sure what they have purview over.
Right. So, as the city manager stated earlier, the monies were, there was a donation given for the Games of Texas last year. And so those funds were received, and they have not, to our knowledge, had any fundraising activities.
Are they supposed to have fundraising activities? Like, what is their mission? To just accept monies or to actively look for monies to help our park system? Probably.
Yeah, I think the latter, Mayor. Any foundation, like the library foundation, right, Laura, that she.
Like Friends of the Museum.
Yeah,
Right.
some of them are more active than others in that goal for fundraising. The police has several, right, very active one, our police department.
But do we have any, I mean, who set that up? Like, is that a city foundation? Is it under the city or totally
No,
separate?
it's totally separate, and that was
Oh.
set up back in the 90s, in the late 90s.
Well, I'd
So
like to
we can
know,
provide that additional information.
if you could, just give us a little history. When do they meet? How does it all work? What's their latest activities? I'm just curious because I love those friends of, we all love friends of everything, which I'd love to set up for CCAC, but anyhow, separate issue, but they do good work. I'm just curious. I've been wondering about that for literally years. Thank you. Councilman Lerma.
Thank you, Mayor. Dante, I just want to say that your group has done a great job on your budget. You know, there's a couple little flaws here and there, but they'll be worked out. But overall, you guys have done an excellent job on the investments that the city greatly needs. Back to the T-heads and the seawall, I think this is a great investment. There are investors waiting in line to see what we're going to do with that area. You know, I've spoken to a couple of them myself, just like the mayor has, but they're not going to spend any money unless we improve what we have. And I think this money that's budgeted for that area is a great investment. We're going to see our return, but like the mayor says, everything works very slow for some reason, you know, but that's okay, you know. I mean, we're patient. We've been patient for a long time. We're moving in the right direction. This council's moving in the right direction. And it is a project for the council, though. It's not just an individual. It's not just District 1 or part of District 2 or anything like that. It's the entire council that's looking at this, you know. But we need to improve it. It's important. And I give you kudos, Peter, same here. You and I have talked about this, how important the T-heads and the seawall is for the city of Corpus Christi, you know, not just for any one district, but for the entire city. You know, so I greatly appreciate everything you guys are doing. Just keep doing what you're doing and let us know that way we can answer the questions to the citizens of Corpus Christi. Changing to North Beach, I want to thank Councilman Barrera for bringing up some comments about North Beach, because I saw the same thing. And you and I have talked about North Beach in detail since I've been on board. You know, North Beach is another area that's going to be greatly improved in the future, you know, God willing, that type of thing. But, you know, like they were saying, we do have some streets out there that do need some kind of repair. I mean, I know we're still studying the canal concept and all that, the project, but I really believe that we need to improve some of those streets now because of the tourists that have been coming in and things of that sort. You know, and the other thing, Neiman, we've talked about the historical panels. Where do we stand on that? You know, or Peter, either one of you can answer. I mean, North Beach is greatly anticipating those to go up. I know that we put in $100,000 in the budget so we could get the engineering to get them placed out there.
Yeah, sure.
So where are we standing on that? Can I get an update on that?
Yeah, let's see if Neiman had, one of the questions we wanted to answer was the integrity of the panels that were
Right,
made.
I remember.
They didn't look all weather to me, but I'm not an engineer. But Neiman, did you follow up on that?
Roger sir, that project is still moving forward. The engineering has actually already been taken care of and funded.
Okay.
We've been having a monthly meeting with the engineering consultant, engineering department, and Parks and Recreation. So our end goal is to have the architectural design completed, and we're supposed to be meeting with them at the end of the month, I believe next week.
So the panels aren't weatherproofed? The design of the panels?
Well, that's one thing that we want to check, is just make sure that they are made of the material that withstand those harsh conditions out there in North Beach. They're made of the same similar panels that of other parks, other signage that's in North Beach and along the bayfront. But we just want to make sure that, out of abundance of caution, that they are exactly the right material, and we're going to get the engineering opinion on that after we complete the site design. But bottom line, sir, the project's moving forward. We've been in constant contact with the engineering firm, and we anticipate seeing shovels hit the ground sometime at the beginning of the fiscal year.
And we have two options, Councilman, that you and I talked about. So
Yes, sir.
This is a project that's just kind of, it hasn't been moved along by the organization, so we're doing that now, though. There was a budget, monies were spent, so I think there's less than 20,000 left. So what we did in this budget is we proposed another 100,000 so that we can finish the project. So there should be sufficient funding now. There's two questions that need to be answered. One, where do we put the panels? Do we put them in the property the city owns by the Lexington? There's already a poured concrete plaza there. But you and I have talked about, is there a better placement for them, maybe along the walking trail that goes along the beachfront?
I think it's, to me, to be able to spread out the public, to the tourists to see,
Right.
it would be nice to go down the boardwalk, the concrete boardwalk that was poured.
Right.
Having those panels spread out throughout the entire beach area.
Right.
That way they can travel it and study the history of it instead of having it in one area.
Well, we kind of agree, because just to sit in a white concrete heat box, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to want to do that, right?
Yeah,
It's probably
they
over
wanna
100
sit there.
degrees in that place. But what we are doing is we have an on-call consultant engineer or design firm that's looking at that city property that we own, and we spent over probably 50,000 pouring concrete. And so what do we do with that? Do we make it some type of a rest spot? There's a shade treatment we can do. So that is being studied as well. And so we'll have an answer soon. We'll work with you, obviously, and then the council, and then the community as well, the North Beach community, the homeowners,
sir.
or the representatives that represent that peninsula.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Pusley?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, I don't want to beat this dead horse, but the marina, I have always felt, and Mayor, I agree with you 100%, is one of the most underutilized assets that we have in this city. About at least 35 years ago, there was a group of business people here in Corpus Christi who put together the plan of building an additional T-head that was going to have all kinds of restaurants and businesses and shops and, things for people to visit when they came to Corpus, or for people who lived here in Corpus. And of course, we managed to kill that plan, but I always wondered, well, that's a great idea, but why aren't we doing that on our existing, marina? And then, of course, the Landry's people came here and we ran them out of town. So I hope that we get it right this time, because that could be a real economic generator for this city and for downtown specifically. So it's very important. Peter, I would ask that I haven't had time to look at it, and Tammy's probably the better person to do it. The Texas legislature made some modifications in the rules this year in the session with respect to certificates of obligation and what their utilizations can be, and we ought to probably get an update from Tammy on what exactly they did and what the governor signed.
Okay, we can do that, Councilman.
And then lastly, Dante, we're talking about this $100,000 for the Memorial Sherrill Park design. We're talking about a lot of different things at Sherrill Park. Have we done a master plan for Sherrill Park? We're getting to the point where we're spending enough money where we may want to sit down and think in terms of what we want to do with respect to a master plan. I'll give you a perfect example. There is a Vietnam memorial at the courthouse that nobody can figure out who did it, why it's there, who put it there, who paid for it. It lists all the names of the people who lost their lives in Vietnam that were from Nueces County. And it kind of sits over in a place by itself, and understand here the other day it was vandalized. And I always thought, you know, it's odd that it's there and it's not down at Sherrill Park, where it would, you know, that would be the ideal place for it to be. So, you know, there's some things like that that maybe we want to look at, but some sort of plan, if we're going to do a whole bunch of things there and spend a whole bunch of money, we may want to look at how we want to do that so we don't end up with a mess.
Yeah, we can do that as part of the, so the dollars in the budget to do the initial design of the memorial, the
Right.
memorial to the 5 branches of the military, we can include in there a space plan for that defined
Yeah,
area.
and I don't mean we need to go spend $50,000.
No,
doing
we can
this.
add that into the scope.
We can get some volunteers together and come up with some ideas. you
No,
know?
we'll get a professional, but we'll add that to the scope of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, real quick, on your budget for, since this was brought up earlier, for the Games of Texas, since we're having it again this year, there's really no money programmed for it, based on your line item budget. You had some last year. What's happening there?
So I believe there is some funds there that are set aside, but they're in the hot fund for the Games of Texas. So yes, it's not in that particular line item, but they're in the hot fund.
Okay, so you're just kind of sitting it off to the side and so it's in the hot fund. Are we, I guess we're going to discuss that on Thursday. Okay, I'll reserve it for then. The last question I have is, you're using community enrichment funds for pool facilities renovations, and I kind of find it ironic, but we're still not completely set up on how that money should be allotted. I don't want to arbitrarily just put it into some location just because there's money there and we need to do something. I think there still needs to be better planning under the pool facilities renovation. This is kind of like a catch-all. It should be very specific to the actual pools that are going to be assigned to. For example, I don't know exactly what pools are going to be worked on here. There's no description of what that is in this page.
And, you know, the pools, in regards to SEF funds, the pools are part of the park amenities, which would fall under the category of being able to utilize those funds for that.
Right, but the community enrichment funds are designated to a specific area based on the development of that area. So it's not just, you can't just use it anywhere. So it has to be specifically to a specific area. So I want to make sure that we're utilizing this correctly based on the policy, the existing policy, not a new policy, the existing policy.
Yeah, Councilman Neiman, who's been doing a lot of work on this, has let him address that question.
Yes, sir. We definitely understand your concerns, and we share them as well. Through our research on the Community Enrichment Fund, what we've discovered is that there is investments and budget orgs across the city.
You mean, I can't understand you.
Oh, sorry, sir. I said through our research, what we discovered is that there is investments in that Community Enrichment Fund across the city. I don't want to say that it's littered with investments, but literally it is littered with investments. And when you actually try to dot a map with the 5-mile radius for each investment that's been made across the city, and the map that I will show you all next week, it's all over the place. So we have the funding. It's just a matter of figuring out or trying to unravel the yarn on, hey, this money came from this specific development. And
Right, right. So, but before we go out and spend it, because how do we recuperate it to the areas that it's required to once it's spent?
We have a plan, sir, and that's something that we're going to be presenting you all next week.
I haven't seen that plan.
Right.
Okay, so I want to make sure we're doing this properly. So I want to put it on your radar. Also, for future reference, again, and this is something I talked to Dante on, what was it, Thursday, was about being specific on your capital improvement project plan, or your capital improvement plan, as to what's actually being done. This is having kind of a hodgepodge is really not the best way to do it, because I have no idea what's being done.
I agree 100%, sir. And the reason why it is like a catch-all is because of the fact that we got pretty late into the budget process when both Dante and myself said, hey, wait a minute, we really haven't, over the last 5 years in our CIPs, captured funding to address pool maintenance, which is a critical vulnerability in our
Pool infrastructure, right.
Yeah.
Right,
So
because I mean, they were trying to do it out of their operating budget.
that's correct. Which it doesn't work.
Right.
And so what I did was task the Parks Department with, hey, at the least, put a place marker in the CIP. Let's get the money program, and we're going to come back and actually put together the detailed plan on which pool facilities we're going to address with this fiscal year CIP. But we just wanted to make sure that we have the funding, because trying to do it out of the operational budget has been a failure.
And also your long-term, should have it in the long term. It's not.
Roger, sir.
The only thing that's in here is Bill Witt.
Roger, we can fix that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions.
Okay, good. Thanks, Dr. Dante. Laura Garcia, our Public Library Director, is going to come up next.
Okay.
You have the material starting on page 32.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. First of all, I want to be sure you can hear me with this on, or do I need to remove it? Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I'm Laura Garcia, I'm the library director, and with me this morning is Gabby Sanchez. She is our senior management assistant, and she handles the budget for the library. This is the library fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget. The mission of the library is to improve literacy, enhance knowledge, and to create a sense of community by making information easily accessible to the public. We provide services through the main library, Laura Thomas Central, and 5 branches, and there is a branch library in each of the council districts, and Laura Thomas Central Library is actually also located in District 1. We have checked out over 400,000 items. We've had over 300,000 visitors. Our public computers have been logged into over 99,000 times, and we have done over 1,000 programs for all ages. One of the things that I wanted to bring out about our programming is that we offer a lot of programs that do deal with healthy lifestyles like nutrition and so forth. And I know that last week that comment came up, and I wanted to point out that at the McDonald Library, which is in District 3, prior to COVID, we were offering a monthly series of health and nutrition classes, and they were in many cases bilingual classes, and those are all free to the community, and that was in partnership with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We've done things through the food bank where they've come and done cooking demonstrations for children and their families, and usually after those programs they provide groceries, bags, and so forth to the community. So if the council is interested, I'd be glad to send a list of all the types of programs that we provide that deal with healthy lifestyles, all the activities and so forth.
Please
We would
do.
love that.
Thank
Laura.
you very much.
Yes.
The organization, I mentioned we have 6 library locations and we have 64 positions. Each of the library locations has a managing librarian that oversees the daily operations of that location. For our achievements, first we completed the Bond 2012-2018 Laura Tama roof project, which was at a cost of $1.8 million. We expanded our broadband capability from 5 gigabytes to 10. We also qualified for the E-rate internet discount program for a cost savings of $143,000. And then also we were able to graduate 7 individuals through our Success for Life program. And we actually did our graduation ceremony at the Salinas Park last December. The other thing, I know that the question about the Friends of the Library and the foundations came up, and this program is actually being funded by them. We wanted to do a trial, and this is, I think we're on their second year, and so far we have graduated 17 individuals through this
Laura,
program.
I know it's a little bit difficult to understand you, but I don't want to, I mean. if you're
I'll
not-
take this off.
If you're comfortable, not
Yes,
if you're
I'll
not.
take it off. I just want to be sure everybody else is comfortable, because I have allergies and sometimes I
Yes,
start coughing, and
okay.
I don't want anybody to panic here.
Thank you.
Okay.
So can you go back? Is this the program that the
Yes, that's the one that you went to and you did the keynote presentation to.
So this is, that continues?
Yes, that continues, and since it's an online program, we do offer tutoring services,
Right.
and that's one of the things that that they pay for, the Friends of the Library pay for.
Oh, I
And
see.
so, again, this is one of the programs that we're doing it as a trial. Eventually, if it continues to be successful, we would like to incorporate it into our budget.
Wonderful. How many?
So far, we graduated 17 individuals.
Awesome. And these are all, can you just tell the council?
They
what
range in
student-
ages, we allow individuals to come into the program that are age 16. Maybe they're at-risk students that are having a difficult time in the traditional setting. But they're also for adults. We've graduated individuals from 18 years old to 50. And one of them was one of our city employees. And so we've done a broad range of ages. And most of them have gone off to either they're already enrolled in Del Mar or A&M. And so we trying to keep track of the individuals to just continue to be sure that the program is successful.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Our performance measures. We have been hit extremely hard by COVID. We closed our doors in March of 2020 and immediately moved towards providing curbside service. And in May of 2020, we went ahead and opened our doors to the public, but just by reservation for computer use. It wasn't until September that only at the Lauretama Library did we allow browsing of the collections, and that was only on Saturdays. And of course, we did that because Lauretama is, of course, much larger than the branches. It was not until November of 2020 that we actually opened our doors to the public again. And so you can see that our visitor count has gone down. The other issue with the visitor count is that our gates, our security gates that we use, they're also people counters. And unfortunately, we have some of those that are either not working or are malfunctioning. So we are having difficult time getting an actual count. However, that's going to be remedied when we do the radio frequency identification installation, because we're going to be getting new gates with that. You approved that project a few months back, so we hope to get new gates in place at all locations by spring. And also, as you can see, even our classes have gone down. Normally, under normal circumstances, we have about 40,000 just children attend our programs. And we offer usually at least anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 programs a year. And again, those are all free to the community. And here is the breakdown of our services. Of course, our main thing is to lend print and digital material. And so that's where we have most of our positions. Then we have develop and promote and support literacy initiatives. We provide programs for all ages and provide digital inclusion resources. The other thing that I want to say about our positions is they're basically all cross-trained. So it's not like I just have 39 people that only do lending programs. They actually fall into all these categories. But in order to break this down, we did it this way. For our 22 library proposed budget, it's at 5.2 million, and that's a 0.5 change. And as you can see, our positions will be at 64 positions, the variance. For the proposed budget general fund, as you can see, the majority of our resources is from the general resource, that's 99%, and from fees and fines, it's 1%. For our enhancements, we would like to increase the building maintenance budget at all 6 locations, and that would be for a cost of $120,000. We have defined projects for each of these locations. For example, we'd like to do the HVAC systems at several of our locations. And then for our second enhancement, it's the assessment and initial exterior improvements to the main library, Laura Thomas Central, which had a cost of $250,000. And I stand by for any questions.
Councilman Pusley.
Yeah, the last deal there, the $250,000, I think is the best. Every time I drive by the Laura Thomas Library here on Tonkawa, it's like, it's almost like it's a scary place. You know, the trees haven't been trimmed. I mean, it needs a real strong facelift.
It does.
Yes, sir, and we recognize that.
A library ought to be a very inviting, you know, sort of atmosphere place, and it doesn't look very inviting. And so I applaud you for that. I think it's way overdue. So thank you very much. Good budget. You know, libraries provide a valuable resource to people in the community. And, you know, I was one of the strange kids that, you know, used libraries when I was young, but a lot of people didn't. But, and it's amazing the amount of information that libraries provide to people, especially when you're going to school or you're in college, or I lived most of my college life in a library. So the one question I did have is, I see where you increased your bandwidth throughput, and while that's good, I would, you know, going from 5 to 10 megabits, 10 is still pretty slow by today's standards. So is that serving you well enough? I mean, because libraries are really moving toward more of a high-tech end. I know we did it at the county library. We spent a lot of money doing that.
And that was the recommendation also of IT. We went through them, and they verified that actually they thought that was very good for us. So, I mean, but we will continue to be looking at that as we continue, because we do know that a lot of things use a lot of broadband. People come in to use resources that take up a lot of broadband.
Do you think that your libraries across the board are high-tech enough? Do you need to spend additional monies to improve the technology at your libraries?
Well, technology is always something that costs, so yes, that's something we could always do. But I do want to point out that 2 years ago, we were at 50 megabytes. So increasing from all this, and that was for all 6 locations, sir. So this is a very big step for us.
Okay. Very good, thank you, good job.
The other thing I did want to mention, sir, you were talking about the memorial at the courthouse. I think we have some resources that will get you that answer.
Okay, that would be great, because I asked everybody over at the courthouse and nobody
Yeah, we have
knew
some
where
things,
that came from.
we actually have a database that was created to, in honor of the soldiers that are there. And so we have a list of them from the Korean War and so forth, World War II and so forth. So I think we may have the answer as to how it all came about.
Okay.
But we'll research that for you.
Yeah, there is a lot of people don't know this, but there's a World War I memorial right here on the hill, on the bluff.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there used to be when the military gave the city of Corpus Christi a cannon.
Yes, I was going to say there's a cannon there.
And in World War II, when steel became a big shortage, they took their cannon back and melted it down. But, you know.
We have a lot of that history in our local history archives department with a lot of photographs. As the other thing, we have a lot of digital things that a lot of photographs that we've digitized.
Well, good.
But
If you
there's
can provide that information, that would be great. That'd be
Will
good
do.
to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you. In your budget for the Central Library, under professional services, you have an increase from last year's budget of $41,000 to $295,000. Can you give me a description of what's happening there?
For that one, that is where they have placed the, my understanding is that 250,000 is being recommended for the proposed. Am I looking at the right thing? Let me see. That's for the professional professional services.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they put the enhancement too for the exterior of La Retama,
Yes, that's where they put it in professional services.
improving the main library.
You're talking about that's 295,000 is what it's showing for proposed? Is that what you're saying?
Right, you
sir?
have, well, you have your proposed budget of $295,124. Last year's adopted budget was $41,000, and it was amended to $45,000. But I don't think improvements are put in professional services. Wouldn't that be in building maintenance and service?
Well, we put our enhancement ones into building maintenance. Perhaps it's just in the wrong category, but that's where we were told that it was being placed.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
When it's time to do the project and we find out exactly where we'll move the money, if it needs to be moved out of professional services, possibly in the building maintenance or maybe some capital account.
So this is, you have several at La Retama. You have two, one for the third floor expansion and one for roof replacement and elevator modernization.
We are doing the elevator at this time. That's with capital improvement funds. And that was, I think it came out about $226,000. I am not sure, what is it that you're looking at?
But it was confusing as to what this was for. Generally, you don't see building improvements in professional services.
Oh, okay. This one is for that enhancement number, the second enhancement, which is improvements at La Retama for the exterior and to do an assessment. That's
Okay,
what that
what I'm just saying is that it raised a red flag to me because it
Oh,
wasn't,
yes,
that's not
yes.
normally where you see that kind of, it's either in the capital improvement fund, which you don't have a capital improvement page for that, unless it's in the library improvements citywide upgrades, which again is a catch-all.
No, it's not in that one. Councilman, as Eddie said, we're not too sure of the extent of the work, so the first part of the $250,000 will have a professional to tell us what do we have to do in the exterior. And once that's defined, we'll amend the capital budget to move what the difference is between the consultant contract and the $250,000.
Okay, so you haven't even done any architectural work or
No,
anything?
we've done
So
nothing.
it's a little, like I said, it didn't look appropriate.
Well, I know, yeah, we just don't have enough data, so we know it has to be done. You drive by there, as the councilman said, Councilman Pusley said, it's pretty scary looking, so we have to trim trees, we need new signage, we need painting, lighting. So once we get it defined by the expert, the consultant, then we'll define the budget. Even $250,000 may not be enough. It was what we had available to balance the budget. So it's the starting point. We may come back next year and actually request more money, depending on the consultant study.
Okay. So this is the $250,000 for consultants?
No, some part of it is for consultant, and then the rest will be to begin some of the improvements based on the prioritization.
Okay.
And for the-
I would recommend next time make that a little bit more clear.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to have some professional service through consultants, you can separate that out, and the rest should go into building maintenance
Yes,
and service.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question I have for you, again, following up on the certificates of obligation, you have library improvements for citywide upgrades that is supposed to be spent this year. $1,720,000 in certificates of obligation, but I don't recall that this was approved in the previous budget, because in looking at the agenda memo from May 17, 2021, it did not include anything with libraries. So is this additional certificates of obligation that we're need to approve?
I believe so, sir, but I'm not 100% on that. I do know that you mentioned the freight elevator at La Retama. That's actually from 2018 bond funds. And we also had.
That's separate. This has to do with citywide upgrades, which, again, is not specific. If you're going to have
The 1,720, is that what you're referring to, sir?
That's
Citywide
correct.
improvements. What I have, yes, it says funding for fiscal year 21-22, and I believe that might be discussed during the asset management presentation.
Okay, because all it says is libraries act as cooling centers during, current library buildings require rehabilitation, improvements, and upgrades for ADA, safety, community welfare. Libraries act as cooling centers during the summer. But it doesn't give any specifics as to which libraries are going to be improved and what's going to happen.
Good morning, Michael Rodriguez, Chief of Staff. Councilman, we haven't issued those COs yet, so we still need to issue the COs, and we haven't.
Well, you got to get approval for those first, right? And why not just do this on the bond project? I mean, we got this approved for the 2018 bond for all the projects for libraries. I don't see that as an issue of getting approval for libraries on bond projects. Why go through the process? Why do it under certificates of obligation?
So there's a lot of need out there right now for our libraries. Like Councilman Pusley said, Laura Thomas is in pretty rough shape. The other libraries are as well, so we need to make some improvements right away. So that's one of the reasons why you're using COs.
Okay, well, that's not a good enough reason. It really isn't, from my perspective.
Okay.
Okay, you should go through the regular government general obligation bonds. Thank you.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you. When we're talking about certificates of obligation, so we only go out for bonds every 2 years. And we're looking today, we're in a low-interest environment, and in a $1 billion organization, this is my opinion, certificates of obligation have a need with it. And we're really hamstringing ourselves if we say no COs on there, so we have something in an out year like this year, we have no bond on there, and we have some compelling needs. So from my standpoint, we need to watch certificate obligations, but I think they're a necessary tool in running an organization this size when we're only going out for bonds every 2 or 4 years with it. I don't think any business would of that side would say, oh, we're only going to finance every 2 years on there and not have any other kind of funding obligation. So I support certificates of obligation used in a compliant, a conservative type manner like this. We have a known need, so we'll defer it for another 2 years while the trees grow and the roof leaks and those kind of things. So I do think certificate obligations have a purpose on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Garcia, I just want to commend you and your team for the fine work that you do. It obviously never gets, I joke around sometimes that there's a lot of the individuals that I speak to, I know sometimes, desal gets all the press and potholes get all the press, but the type of work that you're doing, that creating minds and trying to reach out to the at-risk youth that don't have access to programs, access to computers. I just want to echo how much we appreciate the work that you do. I often tell, I say that my parents, they both work downtown, and so as a result of that, when I got a school in elementary school, and I spent a ton of time at Laura Thomas Library, and that was really my vision to the rest of the world. Very young, I read, The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas, and I loved Edgar Rice Burroughs, and that's a world of fantasy that you bring to the community, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think that's all the questions, Laura.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation.
Right, thank you, Laura. Tracy Cantu, our Interim Director of Neighborhood Services, will be next. That begins on page 43 of your handout.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Again, Tracy Cantu, Interim Director of Neighborhood Services. I have our Neighborhood Services proposed budget presentation for you. So, as you know, the department launched April 29th of this year, and so which combined animal care services, code enforcement, our homeless services and workforce housing, grant monitoring, and fair housing. And so with that, our mission is to enhance citizens' quality of life by consolidating those services under one department to promote and support neighborhoods sustainability, growth, and safety. Our shared purpose of the department is to provide better accessibility to services and more efficient resolution of issues, with emphasizing our efforts on safety, revitalization, and stability of our neighborhoods. Next slide. Okay. So about neighborhood services, we have over 11 signature programs that bring lasting improvement to the appearance, safety, and stability of our neighborhoods. Those services are focused at the neighborhood level to identify and correct specific issues and problems, such as animal care services promoting responsible pet ownership, humane care, wellness of animals in the community. Code enforcement aims to strengthen neighborhoods by providing deterioration of housing and commercial properties through education and enforcement of property maintenance ordinances. Our grant monitoring implements the programs that support community, housing, and economic development and administering our grants. Our homeless services and workforce housing is charged with identifying specific needs within our community and to help facilitate the connections between the homeless people and the service organizations dedicated to helping them find those services. The division also works toward increasing the supply of the workforce and affordable housing through creating initiatives and developing and implementing a comprehensive approach to increasing the supply of affordable housing. So here's our organizational chart. And as I mentioned before, we are responsible to resolve code compliance and animal welfare matters that impact individuals, families, their homes, neighborhoods, and the larger community. Neighborhood Services provides information, connections to assistance, administers funding, and monitors programs that directly contribute to the wellness and stability of neighborhoods throughout the city. For our achievements for this year, since the department launched on April 29th, 3 ordinances have been approved that improve the quality of life for citizens and wellness of our pets. And that includes the Chapter 6 ordinance for animal care services that improves the wellness, the welfare and standard of animal care. And since that time, 700 pets have been microchipped, which the microchipping replaces the traditional pet licensing that's required for pet registration. We also passed the ordinances that prohibit the sitting in line in the right-of-way and the ordinance prohibiting parking on residential street yards. Under achievement number 2, our code enforcement, we launched a training initiative to certify compliance officers in the International Property Maintenance Code. And this is the code that our officers enforce. We have started with our program manager and 2 supervisors, and the substandard building case officer have completed this training for the property maintenance housing inspector certification, and we'll be taking the certification examination before the end of this month. So this initiative improves the credentialing for our code enforcement officers to be certified to enforce the property maintenance code. Achievement number 3 is that Neighborhood Services created the Connections to Assistance community events, and this is to assist our working families with access to services, programs, and resources by bringing the events to our neighborhoods. Our first event was June 19th at the Broadmoor Senior Center in District 2. Our services that we provided were rental assistance, a mini job fair, free pet microchipping, free pet vaccinations. We also included community partners such as the Workforce Solutions and Gulf Coast Humane Society. Our second event is scheduled for August 28th, this coming Saturday, which will be held at Ethel Irely Senior Center in Flower Bluff in District 4. Again, we will include community partners such as Workforce Solutions, People Assisting Animal Control, the Flower Bluff Citizens Council, and Rising Tides Ministries. So, and we will have a modified program taking consideration for COVID as well there. Our achievement number 4, Neighborhood Services created the Homeless Services Resource Fair, which connects homeless persons to services provided in a convenient and welcoming environment. Our first event was held on July 15th, which matched 119 homeless persons with over 21 organizations to help put them on the path to housing, substance abuse treatment, mental health services, health care, veteran services, and employment. Under our performance measures for animal care services, animals adopted or rescued, we have targeting 2,500 for the upcoming year. We estimate about 1,650 for this year. Code enforcement inspections completed, targeting 32,000 for 2022, and estimating 25,000 this year. Substandard structures demolished, we will be targeting 63 for the upcoming year, and estimate we will complete 42 by the end of this fiscal year. Minor home repair, which is residence assisted, we will target to assist 45, and we estimate that we will complete 30 this year. Our connections between homeless services, homeless persons and service providers, this is not something we were tracking previously, but so far this year, again, since the launch of the department, we have reached out and connected 104 persons, and we will estimate that we will achieve 250 by next year.
Can I interrupt you, Tracy? So a couple of things. So on the, how is the homeless, the persons and service providers, how is that tracked, or is it?
Well, we are tracking that. We have an outreach coordinator who actually physically goes out to known locations where homeless persons are known to stay. He will have discussions with them, reach out to them to find out if they are in need, if they are willing to accept services. If they are, then he will make that connection, whether that's through MHID or Salvation Army. A lot of them are looking to obtain an identification card, because we understand this is one of the major barriers for these individuals of obtaining services. So he will help facilitate that and connect them to the groups that can work to get them identification card to then further their access to other services.
So might I suggest that we work with and maybe coordinate, and maybe y'all did this, there are a few others who do this already. So like Salvation Army, Kyle's very active in the outreach. There's another gentleman, his name is, I think I talked to you about it, Peter. Either way, there are people who do all of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Who I would imagine it's kind of like there's a, whether one actually exists or not is probably not, but a file on certain people that we already know the history. We know they went here or they don't want to go there. Do you see what I'm saying? So we don't.
Yes, ma'am.
We're reaching people that we don't know who's already spoken with them or who's tried to help them, or maybe they did get help and it didn't work out.
Correct. And we are tracking that information. We do have a network of those service providers, and so we are weekly and daily reaching out to those providers that we know provide those services, and again, making those connections, making the follow-up on that connection as well.
But I mean the individual, because there's only probably less than a handful that actually have outreach people, because it's difficult.
Yes,
that's the key in my opinion. But those people, like in other words, is our outreach person working with Kyle? Is our outreach person working with, he works at a radio station, I can't remember his name, that gentleman that's always on the streets trying to help our homeless? You know what I mean? Do we have a coordinated effort with them?
Yes, Oscar Elizondo is our outreach coordinator, and he is in tune, boots on the ground, and he is working actively with those other persons who are out there performing outreach, and so leading the charge, so to speak.
Right, okay,
and
good.
establishing that, like I said, that network, and not just making that initial contact, but he will go back and follow up with the homeless individual, with the service provider, to ensure that those connections are taking place.
Okay, and then on the minor home repair, that's for elderly residents, correct?
Elderly and disabled, yes.
Elderly and disabled. So this is the one that we had a waiting list for.
Yes.
So how is that working? Where are we on that waiting list?
One of our strategies is we want to increase the number of contractors that we have to complete that work, so that we are getting to those projects in a more timely manner, to increase the number that we're able to help. And another part of that was during our, when we were working on the cap, was increasing the amount of money that's going to be available in this fund so that we can assist additional individuals. Also, Rising Tide Ministries is also going to have a program for some home repair as well. So we will be increasing the number of individual homeowners or residents that we're able to assist.
Well, and Peter, that was the problem. If we have a waiting list of people who are disabled and elderly, and they need our help with minor home repairs, and our problem is not money. We have money. That's what we talked about that one day that I had a real problem with. It was the contractors, which my point then, and I think I asked, was what are we doing to entice them, or to, I mean, maybe we are, but somebody needs to tell me what are we doing to bring down, to try and get those contractors here. I understand it's hard. I know that's hard right now. If the labor costs more, we have federal money that we can use to get them here. So
Yes, ma'am. And again, we recognize that that was one of our deficits, and so we are working with contracts and procurement to bring additional contractors on board. So I know that that's one of the items that Jennifer and her team are working on, to increase the number of contractors specifically for that program, but also for our demolition and reconstruction program. So again, so we can reduce that waiting list and get to those residents.
what was
more
that
timely.
waiting list number?
15?
But 15 is what she's saying.
Yeah, 15 is what
Yeah.
Jennifer's saying. How are we working with procurement, Tracy? Are we doing an RFP or RFI or direct, trying to direct connect?
I believe we're going to go through an RFP process, correct? We'll get
Yeah, let's,
the-
okay,
Yeah, I'll let
so-
Jennifer speak to this.
okay.
She's working on this more specifically than I am. Yeah, Jennifer, you want to have a seat? Yeah. I think you have to hit the button.
Oh, yeah.
The button on the mic. down here.
On the mic.
There you go.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So what we're looking at to evaluate it, when city manager and Michael Rodriguez, and we did the procurement in San Antonio, we went out for a pool. So there'd be a pool of contractors that we would be able to select from based on their capacity, their willingness to do the job, and the cost. So we have to work with procurement to make sure that we, one, meet the federal rules and regulations, and two, it's set up in such a way that we can be flexible to increasing labor costs and increasing or decreasing supply costs. So we've got to work with procurement to figure out how to develop a pool, because normally when you select a contractor, you go under contract, you bring it to council, they approve the contract, you go and you do the work. When you're doing a program like the minor home repair or the demolition reconstruction, and you're looking at that pool, it's different, because what we want to do is approve the pool, even though, for example, we might not know what the exact cost at a particular address might be. And so that's kind of where the catch is. We've never done that here. And so we've got to figure out how to do it and make sure we still stay in line with the city and the federal procurement procedures. Right now, there's about 3 demolition and reconstruction contractors, and we can only do about one at a time. They can each only do about one at a time. What we'd like to be able to do is develop a pool so we can have multiple houses going at one time, or even one contractor doing multiple houses to increase the capacity.
Okay. So can you keep us, Mr. Zanoni,
Yes, we will. We'll get-
apprised of this?
Yeah, we can
So
actually.
we know that something is happening, we have to do something to help 15 people who've been on a waiting list, I'm sure for quite some time, that we haven't been able to get to, because I understand it's challenging times, but like you're saying, we've got to figure it out.
And that waiting list slows down as we get to the end of the fiscal year, because now we're working off program income. Once we hit October 1st and the new federal funds kick in, we'll move through that waiting list a lot faster. And again, it slows down towards the end of the year when we expend our entitlement funds and rely on the program income that's being generated in that activity.
We'll provide you a better status, Mayor, and provide it more routinely until we get some production going, okay?
Thank you. Councilman Pusley.
So is all the money that comes through to us to fund this minor home repair, is that all CBGD money? I can't ever say it right. Federal money?
Yes, sir. It's all federal. It's all the
federal
grant
money?
money. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I can understand how that presents challenges because of all of the rules and regulation and hoops you have to jump through to make sure that you're doing everything according to the federal guidelines and standards. And lots of contractors don't want to work under those rules. I mean, it's hard to find contractors to do anything today because of the demand on them, but that creates an additional challenge for you. I understand that. So, but that is a good program. Just getting it done is the challenge.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all the questions.
All right, so I'll move.
Is that the end of your?
No, we'll
Oh.
move to the next slide here. so-
Okay.
Okay. So covering our services, as I mentioned earlier, we have our animal care services. That's 45 positions under that division. Code enforcement has 38 positions. Grant monitoring, 13 positions. Homeless services and workforce housing, and that includes our fair housing inspectors, is also 5 positions. Animal Care Services promotes pet adoption, fostering programs, our animal rescue, resolving animal complaints, our CCAS volunteer program you mentioned earlier, Mayor, our lost pet recovery, microchipping, and working with our community partners. Code enforcement takes a direct role in working with our violators and complainants to find the lasting, impactful results for blighted conditions throughout the community. That would include mowing and removal of debris, junk vehicle removals, and demolition of substandard structures. Grant monitoring, we talked about some of these programs, the demolition reconstruction program, the down payment assistance, home buyer closing cost assistance, minor home repair grant, single-family rehabilitation loans, emergency rental and mortgage and utility assistance due to hardships from the COVID-19 pandemic and disaster recovery. And again, our homeless services and workforce housing, their troubleshooting, their complaint-based plan is to create a business plan. And it's based on the continuum of care, so from the street to the service to housing. We want to complete that loop, working on going from emergency housing to transitional housing to permanent housing. So our 2022 Neighborhood Services Department proposed budget is $13 million. Of the general fund, that's 8.1. Our grant entitlement is 4.9. for a total of 13 million. You will see there's a difference over the 2021 budget because of the COVID-19 funds that we received. That it was included the $21.7 million. So, as far as our positions stayed the same, and we'll cover some of that with our enhancements as far as the changes in the positions. So, all right, next slide. All right, so to cover our general fund budget, which is 8.1 million, Animal Care Services receives 51% of that at 4.1, Code Enforcement 41% at 3.3, Homeless Services and Workforce Housing is at 7%, and the Neighborhood Services general budget is at 1% of that. Proposed budget for our grant entitlement, that is a Community Development Block Grant, represents 3.1 million. The home grant represents 1.5. Emergency Solutions Grant represents $300,000. And here are some of the programs that receive monies from those grants. So Code Enforcement receives 17% of the CDBG budget. Minor home repair, 15%. Our Home Buyer Assistance Program at 9%. Grant monitoring, 19% for the administration and program delivery. And then our other subrecipients will receive 40% of the total grant funding. Our enhancements. Enhancements 1 and 2 are for Animal Care Services. The first is converting 8 temporary kennel technician positions to 4 full-time kennel technician positions, which will provide a stable environment to promote the best adequate care for animals. That amount is $36,665, and that seems low, but the reason for that is that what we're doing is converting the 8 temporary kennel positions. So that transition from the temporary services is a little over $82,000, and the 36.6 makes up the total amount, which is $117,772. This also includes our second enhancement, which is the addition of 2 full-time live release coordinators. This will increase our live release rate through adoptions and place more animals in rescue and foster care, as just over $90,000 for that enhancement. Enhancement number 3 would add an additional full-time veterinarian to provide more medical attention and better support for on-campus critical injury cases for a little over $110,000, almost $111,000. The additional veterinarian will also increase the number of spay and neuter procedures that can be performed at our facility and reduce the number of outsourced procedures. Enhancement number 4 is meant to add 2 additional light-duty vehicles. These are Ford Escape SUVs that will allow Animal Care Services to expedite services, deliver pet licenses to veterinary clinics, attend court hearings, and conduct investigations for cruelty and bite cases. The addition of these units will keep the full-size kennel units available in the field for the animal care officers who are responding to calls for service. Enhancement number 5 is a space and program design study at the Animal Care campus to modernize for live release and overall better customer service. This is for $50,000. Enhancement number 6 is the addition of 5 additional code enforcement compliance officers and 1 administrative support position to include equipment, vehicles, and improved response times for calls for service and improve the follow-up and resolution of code violations. $478,420. And so the breakdown of that is the 3 officers will be coming from the general fund, and 2 officers and the administrative staff position will be coming from the CDBG grant fund. And the chart just shows you the increase and the numbers that we have received over the last 3 years, going from 22 to 23 last year. This would bring us 5 additional officers for 28 for the 2022 budget if approved. Okay. Enhancements 7, 8, and 9 are also for code enforcement. First is $50,000 to assist in the investigations and enforcement of short-term rental violations. $250,000 additional funding for demolition of dangerous structures identified as an imminent danger due to sudden acts. Then $88,723 is the replacement of 25 ruggedized tablets for code enforcement officers. And that is being also funded partially 16 tablets through the general fund, 9 tablets through CDBG.
Tracy, are those new, or do they already
These will
have-
be replacements.
Okay.
The officers have had them in place for several years now. However, we've started seeing them begin to need repairs. They are past their period of warranty, and so IT has recommended the replacement of these so that we continue to work efficiently.
Okay.
And enhancement number 10 is $100,000 funding for infrastructure fee waivers for non-qualifying infill housing properties. So, and
That's something that we're going to work with the council on. We have to develop the policy. This is something Councilman Pusley brought up. So we still have to go to the type B and A to secure money for the qualifying. That means somebody that's below 80% of the AMI. But there's several developers that build homes and infill lots across the city that sell them regardless of your income. So we have to develop that policy, bring it back to council, but this $100,000 will be used for fee waivers
Okay,
to make
wait,
the
wait.
home.
This is fee waivers for a developer who's building a house for profit and for anybody.
Right. We have to develop the policy guidelines, but the goal is it's infill, so it takes vacant lots that are not in the town.
Only infill.
Right. Yes. It has to be a vacant lot, an infill lot across the city. And there's a few developers out there that are interested in the program. But the qualifying one puts it in a CDBG census tract area. And using federal money, we have to say it's 80% of AMI or less.
Oh.
This will allow us to sell it between some 80 to 100 or even over 100 of the AMI. But still, even trying to do that in some of these infill lots, there needs to be some gap financing provided by a city, or in this case, our city. And so the $100,000 is it's set aside for now. We're going to develop the policy, bring it back to council on what this means, what the
Oh, I
program
see.
means. But at least we have the funding secured in the budget.
correct. This would allow us to support that infill housing program without some of those restrictions, but adding housing units to the existing, already approved subdivisions, neighborhoods is the goal here. But to
Right.
do that with those non-qualifying. So,
Are we gonna, okay, so it's basically, it's not, we're not gonna have a direction in where they're, I mean, outside of it being infill,
Right.
it could be wherever.
It could be wherever, right? There's lots across the city, even outside of the CDBG census tracts, where it's low income predominantly. So there could be vacant lots, and there are vacant lots across the city. And so this will allow them to be put back into production with infill housing. It may not be necessarily an affordable homeowner that buys it, but it puts the vacant lot that can add blight even to an upper scale neighborhood into production. There'll be a subsidy from the city and for some of the fees, maybe from Development Services, or some of the tap fees if they're hooking up to water, sewer, and
Right,
that type of
but
thing.
like you said, I mean, there could be infill in Kings Crossing.
Yes. Well, there would be some.
I mean, that's my concern.
Well, there'd be
And-
some guideline limits on,
Right,
say, the
right.
value of the home, and
Miss-
yeah.
What's that?
That's, for example, Thanksgiving homes, that's they're not gonna be building in Kings Crossing. They are,
Well, maybe not them,
They-
but this is not just for them, is it?
but the infill housing program, Mayor, that I brought to this council that was adopted back in 2015, and all I asked for was one simple modification, and it got run down a gar hole, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, they come up here and they take these lots that nobody else will buy. They're usually 25-foot wide. They're in depressed neighborhoods normally, and they take and clean them up and build affordable houses on them. And of the couple of hundred of them they've done, because there was a comment made in one of the council meetings that, well, it's rich people buying these and renting them out. There's only been one house out of all those that they've built that has become a rental property. And you know, the other side of the coin is there are people out there who want to rent houses that can't afford even an affordable house to get into, that want to rent. So that's not what the infill housing program is about at all.
Okay, and I think, Mr. Zanoni, you said it, that there are no guidelines. So I'm asking questions
Yeah.
because, yes, I have a concern,
Yeah.
but I don't want an infill. We're not going to subsidize a developer to go
Yeah.
build a house in Kings Crossing because
agre-
it's
right.
infill.
Right, that's agreed. So,
not-
right,
yeah.
there'll be probably a
And
cap
I
on
know
the.
that's not what you're saying. That wasn't your intent. The guidelines, I think, are going to get us there.
Right, there will. So there could be a cap, there will be a cap on the housing value, right? We're not going to build $1 million house and
Right.
provide a subsidy.
That, in fact,
Right.
that was the only part that they had asked, that Thanksgiving Homes had asked to be modified.
Right.
Right.
Is because when it was developed in 2015, the city set a cap on the cost of the house,
And it was
or
too
the price
low.
of the house.
Yeah.
And it's too low now.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
since 2015, everything's gone up in
Right.
price.
Right.
I agree.
So we have to raise it enough to where they can build an infill affordable house.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna be a house you build in Kings Crossing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Tracy?
So that is the end of my presentation. I'll
That's
stand
the
by for
end.
questions.
Okay. And we have about 15, maybe less minutes here before we have to start our council meeting. But I do want to clarify.
Okay.
We have 2 live release positions.
Yes.
1, 2?
2, yes,
Two
2 more
currently.
recommended.
2 coming on.
Yes.
Right, we have one today that's on staff, or that a current position that's filled. We're recommending to add 2 more.
And a second vet.
And a second vet,
So
correct.
what I'd like to see, especially in light of this horrific event that just took place with the dogs who all died, and that has nothing to do with our live release coordinators or veterinarians, but has a lot to do with education and what are we actually implementing. So that, Peter, I'd like the report on exactly what took place there.
Right,
And I know you're working on that.
We're working on it. 3 are still living, by the way, Mayor, right? 3.
But I don't even, what was the total?
It was
I
a
heard
total of 14
14.
dogs, so 11
Horrible.
died, and 3 are still living.
Okay,
3 of the adult dogs.
right. And 2 had to be put down.
Right, of the 11,
Of the 11.
9 were deceased at the
The
scene,
veterinarian.
and then
Oh,
2, and then 2 subsequently were put down because they just were
Right.
they were in too much distress and not recoverable.
Yeah, and that's my heart breaks for them. But that said, Tracy, the live release and the vet, all of this has been an effort for an end goal. And I'd like for you guys, I have spoken through my the mayor's animal care
Right.
ad hoc committee,
Yes.
because they work closely with Dr. Draper and with CCAC. The goal in mind is obviously to, help eliminate, strays, chip dogs, and just be responsible, more responsible as a community. But we've got to know how that's, hiring these people or these positions are going to impact that greater number. And so I just want to make sure we have a discussion with her in terms of what that goal is, because then that has to trickle down to what is the purpose of the second veterinarian. And it was said in one, I believe, it may have been District 5's budget, or the budget workshop, that it was to relieve some duties from the first veterinarian. And in my opinion,
Well, in the
we
ca-
need
yeah.
to add to try and reach our, the operation, the different medical procedures that they do.
Right, we do, yeah. So the goal is that the rest of that sentence is they relieve the duties when the other veterinarian's in court. So in a investigative type situation, the veterinarian has to go to court, and it can take days sometimes, right?
I thought that was just Fridays, but okay.
Yeah, and so when that person may be in court, then this veterinarian will at least be on site to do procedures that are done. But the other goal also, as you stated, and when it was in the presentation, is to increase spay-neuter surgeries.
Right.
So it's two things, and we'll better define it to talk about how many spay-neuter surgeries can we do now with 2 veterinarians.
Because the goal is
Yeah.
6,000, just so you know.
Yeah.
According to Draper, we
Yeah.
need 6,000 more on top of what she's doing now. But anyway,
Right.
that's all in the details of the job duties. I'm just saying, we have to achieve progress in our animal care services in hiring this personnel, because this is the first time that we have made a significant investment in animal care services. And many council members on this dais have supported this, and it's been an initiative. So it's important that we reach whatever goals that they feel, Draper feels we need to reach. We do it with all of this, because it's a huge investment, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and we are too. We're very excited about the prospect of being able to get the number of new positions filled. And as the city manager said, adding that veterinarian will increase the number of spay and neutering that we're able to complete at the facility. Also alleviate some of that critical care that when, as he said, when our veterinarian is at court, and we've got animals that are incoming, they're being taken to other locations, other emergency veterinarian clinics, and so this will reduce that amount of critical care. We'll be able to do more of that in-house. And so, that's one of our goals, but also adding those positions, those kennel technician positions, we will have people there, and that will improve our care of our animals, and our live release will increase the number of fosters and placements.
The other thing is those programs, Peter, I'd like to see that the adoption program and the foster program. What do those look like, and how have we improved those? Because that's critical to the overall problem. Councilman Besley, you have a comment? Yeah, that's okay. And lastly, the last comment I'd like and request, Peter, would be, could you send the council an inclusive list of, how many friends of the whatever department we have across our 32 departments?
Okay.
Friends of the museum, the Friends of the Park,
Friends of
all
Police,
of those.
right.
And details on what is their function, what is it they, how do they operate?
Okay.
I'm just curious to see how many we
That's
have
good.
in support of our departments.
Okay, we'll do that for you, or for the council.
Great. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Tracy?
Thank you very much.
Mayor, maybe if you'd like, we could break, and maybe either at the end of this meeting or at our Thursday meeting. We have council meeting in less than 10 minutes. So I would recommend not starting one of these last 2 departments, but rather.
Oh, right.
Yeah, taking a
right.
few minutes, getting ready
Yeah.
for the council meeting. We can resume this either after this council meeting or Thursday
Okay.
at the council's desire.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Then I'll go ahead with no further business. I'll adjourn the meeting.